Hi, it's Paul Dragoo, host of New American TV, and here's a segment from one of our recent episodes.
Hi, everybody. This is Lisa Von Geldern with the Taking Action segment from the New American TV. And I have with me today Rabbi Menashe Bovit, and he is from Queens, New York. He is on the board of the Jewish Pro-Life Center in Pennsylvania. He is an active rabbi, and he has led his congregation for over 14 years, and he is also a member of the John Birch Society. Welcome, Rabbi.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I invited you because I'd like to hear, I've been reading up and listening to some of your YouTube videos, and I think you have a very interesting story about how you grew in your understanding of politics and God and life. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting is that you mentioned you started out as a long-haired hippie. So can you tell us your story?
All righty. Well, I'll try to make it as brief as possible. God's behind the scenes guiding things. So to me, that's very clear. When I was a teenager, I'm the son of a Holocaust survivor, and I always kind of felt that was a reason why my father had survived, and he had to have some kind of special purpose in my life. And during that era, there's the Vietnam War, and I felt it was wrong. And so I got involved in protesting against the Vietnam War. That kind of launched me into being something of an activist in many different things. And I kind of moved from there into the anti-nuclear movement against nuclear power plants. And then I got involved. Interesting that I saw there was all this anti-Israel activity. So I learned about that. I became a pro-Israel activist. And then I went through a period of time where I was not very politically active, but that kind of launched me. But I kind of kept on drifting, I guess, rightward politically. And some of the things that were motivating me back in my early political involvements were I felt the government was too intrusive. I felt I didn't like powerful government. I was wondering what we were doing in Vietnam, and it's kind of come full circle today. I've come to an understanding today that I believe that the Vietnam, we don't have a lot of time here, but through my reading and my own research, I now understand that, interesting enough, while there were communists that were really pulling the strings beyond the Vietnam War movement, and I was interesting enough, I saw that even as a teenager, because I was very active, and they tried to recruit me into a group that was called Student Mobilization Against the War, and then when they took me to their headquarters, it was headquartered in the Socialist Workers' Party. And that scared me off right away because I never wanted to be a communist. That was not on my agenda at all. So what I came to conclude was many years later is the Vietnam War was actually being manipulated by communists who had infiltrated our government and all the institutions of our society in order to turn Americans against our own country. Because when we look at how the Vietnam War was, how it was run, the things that were done, it was obviously done to alienate the population. Everything was seen to be done in a way to alienate people. And so as I matured and grew over the years, I ended up on the other side of the political spectrum. And, I got involved in Republican politics, which is very disappointing.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
It seems like a natural progression, though, to be against the war in Vietnam, and then today to become conservative and to be against what our government's doing on that side.
Yeah, you see some of the same mischief going on today, like what's going on with Ukraine. This whole deep state thing getting us involved in this war in Ukraine. It appears to me that obviously our government is taking instructions. The military seems it's under the complete control of the Chinese government. I mean, there's too many details to speak about in a short time slot today, but. So the things that motivated me as a young man, in some way, it motivate me today. Thank God for being an American, number one. My father used to tell me every day, he used to say, because he didn't understand why I was protesting. He'd say, I'll imitate his accent, because He loved this country so much. He'd say, you know what? You should get down and kiss the ground of this country every day and thank God for being an American.
Yep.
He's and he was right. He was right.
He's right.
And we have to protect this gift that's called United States of America. It's a gift from God. And there's been these wicked people. I believe they're not just communists. I believe they're motivated. I think they're motivated by what in Jewish mysticism is called the Sitra Achra, which we call Satan. This is
Yes.
a satanic force.
You brought that up on the phone the other day, the satanic influence in our government today and what's going on.
Well, you just look at this whole business. There's no such thing as a transgender. We know that a man can't be a woman can't be a man. But they're doing all these things that, things that are obviously insane because they want people to lose their ability of discernment and to be able to discern truth from fiction. And once they could get the population entirely confused, then they are able to impose their complete totalitarian one world government, which is obviously, where they're leading us. And it's going to be a godless government because they believe government is God.
Yes. And it's going to be a cold, lonely, isolating place, just like it was all home alone during COVID. A perfect example of what they have planned for us. So,
call that the scamdemic.
The scamdemic. Can you talk a little bit about your journey into membership with the John Birch Society?
Well, I had known about the John Birch Society, I'd heard of it, and actually, having grown up as a kid in the Chicago suburbs, I actually know where Appleton, Wisconsin is. I've been there before. So.
It's a little cold here today.
I know Harry Houdini was from there, so I know. Most people don't know that, right? And so I'd heard of it and didn't know much about it. And interesting I was speaking with a friend today, and I told him that I'd joined the John Birch Society, and he's a conservative fellow, and he said, I don't really know much about it. I know they have a bad reputation, he said. And I said, that's just the smear tactics that have been used for many years, because actually the things that many conservatives are talking about today, the things we call the deep state, the New World Order, John Birch Society was way ahead of everybody else on this stuff, understanding that it's not just the liberals versus the conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, all this kind. That's just all on the surface. There's a lot of stuff going on that's much deeper and much more insidious than that. And the John Birch Society was way ahead of everybody else in recognizing and understanding that the roots of this go back a long way. They go back, hundreds of years.
Fruit of the poison tree.
And so I had been doing some reading on my own, and I had gone to the website of John Birch Society and read some things. And my friend Bob Unger is a very good friend of mine, and we spent a lot of time talking and bouncing ideas back and forth. And so he brought me to a meeting, and I became a member. I was honored that there was one of the officials, Kip, was there, and
Kip Webster. He's a great man. Yes.
And then I was told that he wanted to sponsor me to be a member. So I was like, oh, I am so complimented. I'm so honored.
Yeah, well, welcome aboard. Welcome to continuing the fight in a different realm, and our aim is to educate, right? Our total strategy, truth is our only weapon. Education is our total strategy. And that's what I love about the Birch Society. And I spoke with Bob Unger yesterday, and I spoke with you, and both very well-read and knowledgeable men about history, and talking with you, the arc. You haven't moved. Society has moved. Our culture has moved. But your principles and values from when you were a young man, although your hair might not be long anymore, have remained, I believe, the same.
I couldn't grow it that way if I wanted to right now. But I was on. I speak on a number of different formats, and there's a Facebook program that I'm one of the talking heads on. I was on the other day. A guy named Mike Coons. I think it's called America Unlimited. And while we were discussing things, I mentioned during that program that people need to be educated about our Constitution. The John Birch Society is a great place to get those kind of resources. So I mentioned that on that program.
Thank you. I think it's a great our Constitution series is one of the better series out there.
It's a two-pronged kind of thing. I think people need to get educated as to what our Constitution is, Very few people, most Republicans I know are absolutely clueless. They don't know what it is also. But also, so it's like we have to get ourselves attached into what God's telling us in the Bible about what is normalcy and how human beings are supposed to live their lives. It's right there. That's the blueprint for our moral life, our internal life. And we're blessed to be Americans, and the Constitution is our guiding, it's the guide to how we should live in a cohesive and normal society in this country. So you have to have both things together. I think we're blessed to have both. Unfortunately, most people are disconnected from both today.
Most of our legislators don't understand the Constitution. Congress proves it daily. They don't understand the enumerated powers. When I first was watching the Constitution series, I ran and grabbed a pocket Constitution on that second edition, underlining, when Robert Brown was speaking. It was quite eye-opening for me.
Yeah, they've forgotten about the Constitution altogether. I mean, I like President Trump in some ways, but he doesn't seem to understand what it is also. There was a video I watched of him talking about, these unconstitutional red flag laws. And he's saying that, we should, take the guns away and then we'll do the due process later. It's like, so even Trump, who a lot of us liked for a lot of reasons, I mean, he also seems to be clueless. We have a lot of educating to do here.
Yes, we do. Well, rabbi means teacher, right?
Yeah. That's one of the things.
So, I'm really glad you came on today. What, if anything, do you want to leave one last nugget with our audience?
Once again, we need to be educating ourselves as to what the Constitution gives us as Americans, but also we need to plug into that Bible. We need to, if you're a Christian, go to your church. If you have a good pastor that is, a lot of the left has infiltrated the churches and the synagogues also. But we need to plug in and we need to touch base with God, because that's where it all comes from. If we get good with God, we'll bless ourselves to turn this country around.
Thank you, Rabbi. It's been a pleasure.
All right. God bless you and God bless America.
I'm sure we'll talk again.
Indeed.
Hi, I'm Alan Keyes. I'm the host of IMTV's daily talk show about news and events in America. And I want to say a good word for the New American magazine. Not only because Alex Newman has joined us as somebody who is periodically hosting a show, but because New American Magazine represents a alternative media that is willing to tell people the truth. With so much fake news spreading about, and the fact that right now this country's in an existential crisis, we remember who we are and where we come from and what our principles are, or we die. Reading New American Magazine can keep you up to the minute on the issues that are challenging us as a people and on which that survival hangs. You can check it out and subscribe at www.thenewamerican.com.